Hey guys, what's up? Eddie Alho here with KissAnalog.com. Hey, so today we have a guest in the lab. It's a Keysight Oscilloscope. What do you know? And no, I did not find this in a trash bin. Unfortunately, it's a loaner. I have to give it back. And so what the thing is this thing's kind of heavy, guys. Notice that right out of the gate is this guy's got some girth to it. It's a heavy boy. And looking into it, it's got to be a bunch of shields. It's powered up, obviously. You can see the vent here on the side. There's some vents on the bottom there, and the fan right there. So the fan's pulling air through all those holes, and it's not very warm. It's also pretty quiet too. And also there's 3 connections here: coax for trigger out, and there's a USB if you want to power something like I don't know, differential probe maybe, you know, something like that. And also the LAN connection. So 3 connections on the back. Like I say, pretty heavy. It's got a little thing for a strap here. I'm not sure what you use that strap for, but it's got a nice handle, pretty sturdy, snaps in place. It's got your typical feet on the bottom that pop out, little rubberized back feet so that it doesn't slide when it's propped up like that. So now the thing about this scope, I can tell you, is has wave gen built into it. Comes in a series of scopes that half of them have the gen, half don't. If they have a G on the end of the name, it's got a generator. If they have the A, no generator. I suggest getting the one with G. Okay, now that's about $200 more roughly for the same everything else except for the generator kind of thing. You know, same bandwidth, so on. So you might say, well, I can get a standalone generator for less than $200. This is just function generator, so it gives your basic signals. It also gives noise, which is interesting, but you know, it gives your sine, square, your pulse, and triangle wave. That's it, and noise output. Okay, I like that it's on the front of the scope. Now it's only a single. Some scopes have the dual, you know, when they offer generators, they have dual generators, but and often they're in the back. This one has a single, but it's in front. I like that. The reason why you'd want to spend the $200 to have it in your scope is so that instead of buying a standalone generator, is this scope will do Bode plots for you. It has a FRA analyzer, you know, frequency response analyzer built in. So that'll do your filters for you. You can use this for a lot of things. Component characterization like an inductor, capacitor, filter. I'm going to demonstrate a speaker back here. I'm going to show you the output or the speaker impedance using this guy. So we'll demonstrate that. I think we'll do the FFT, and then the rest of the things we'll probably just run through quickly, because otherwise, man, this video might be a little longer than you want it to be. So it is really nice. You know, maybe from there you can see the colors just jump out at you. The LEDs on all these. There's a generator output. Here's the math. FFT, you can only have one of those on at a time. But anyway, you can see the lights are very bright, easy to see. Ergonomics, the scope, the layouts, I like a lot. Now this is a compact scope, so that you only have one set of controls for the 4 channels. So, but it is very compact, 7-inch screen. So the screen, I can tell you just out of the gate, just turning it on, I was trying to turn off the menu. You can't turn off the little bar on the side like a lot of scopes you can't. Some you can. I wish you could. But anyway, so let me just give you the rundown on these scopes. There's 2 educational units. They have some built-in things and some guides that go with them to help you learn how to use a scope. And those are the EDUX1002A and 1002G. I believe that's what they are. Now they're the 50 meg scopes, and they have 100K points of memory. So I suggest buying, and they start around 400, like in the mid $400 range. Yeah, I think it's around 460 bucks for the one without generator, a couple $100 more with the generator. So it is kind of a big hit for the generator at that price range. Anyway, then you have these DSOX series, and they come in 70 meg. They come in 70 meg, 100 meg, and 200 meg, like this one. And the educational series comes in 2-channel. The DSOX comes in 2 or 4-channel. And so this would be the top of the line. This is the 200 meg 4-channel. They all have 2 gigasamples per second, so that's quite a bit. It's a lot of samples. The DSOX series has 1 mega points, so that's its deep memory. Not real deep, but now I'll just tell you, because that's something that some people stumble on, is they want deep memory like 10 meg. Now the 1 meg is respectable. It's kind of like the beginning of the deep memory scopes. And what they have done here is they've tried to optimize the speed of the scope, the ADD channels, the 2 gigs, and something else really important is the waveframe capture. Okay, so what that is a digital scope is super capable these days, capturing all kinds of glitches and things that once people thought you could only do with analog. Digital scopes do that great now, but there is a chance you can miss one, because as it fills up that 2 gigasamples per second, it captures a waveform, okay, and then it has to process that, and then it captures another waveform, processes that. Well, in between captures, it's kind of like your eyes blinking. You might miss things when your eyes blink, and hopefully you don't blink too much, but if you do blink, it's hopefully a short time in comparison, right? So this scope will do 50,000 frames per second, so waveforms per second, so that's pretty fast. And if it had a deep memory, it might not capture as many waveforms, so I think that's kind of the trade-off. The other argument is that these scopes all offer segmented memory now. Pretty much any scope in this price range is going to have segmented memory. With segmented memory, what you can do is, instead of filling up a whole bunch of memory with, like deep memory, and capture, looking through that deep memory for the signal you're looking for, with segmented memory you can set up your triggers, because the triggers are so smart these days. There's so many different types of triggers you can set up. So you can set up a trigger to capture that signal you're interested in, and if it happens, say, every 5 minutes, well, you're not going to do that with deep memory. That's too long. So with segmented memory, you can capture this glitch, then this glitch 30 seconds later, 5 seconds later, a day later. Anyway, you can capture a whole bunch of segments, and then you can go back and play those through. So anyway, this scope has a lot to offer, and it's really cool, and it's neat that they came down to the price point where they're competing with other scopes now. So I'd like to say it starts around 460 bucks for the educational one. This top line one is with the generator. It's a G model, 1204G. This one is, I think it's 1216 today. So, a couple $100 less, $1,000 for the without the generator. But like I say, I would get the generator, because unless you're not going to do any of those kind of things that I've talked about, it's neat because the scope, it's going to do some math, and it's going to sweep that generator, and it knows where the generator, what frequency it's at, and it can sit there and plot your Bodie plots. So It's a really cool feature. Alright guys, so let's come over here to the bench, take a closer look, and let's run through this thing. Hey, one more thing we want to do before we start investigating the screen and all the functionality. Let's just do a power thing, okay? Since I'm a power supply guy, let's just do some power stuff. What we're going to do is we're going to look to see if this switch, it feels mechanical to me, meaning that it's actually opening the circuit. Let's find out for sure. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn it off, and we're going to see if we have any power, or if it's in sleep mode. Okay, a lot of electronics say go in sleep mode. There could be some benefits to that, but one benefit you get from opening the circuit completely is that, you go away on vacation, whatever, or you go to bed that night, get up the next day. If there's a storm, some surge came in, you don't have to worry about it hurting your equipment. So that's one thing I like about it. So a lot of equipment today, when it goes in these sleep modes, they pull very low power. And so we'll be able to see if this guy's pulling any power at all. Maybe it's very little. And then we'll see how much power it's pulling when it's just up and running, okay? So let's look at that. And then the other thing is when we do power it up, I'll actually time it, even though I'm not a huge, that's not a big deal to me, because I like to turn on my scope, let it sit there and warm up, which I think they actually recommend, many electronic items, let them warm up so the temperature settles down and everything settles in. So whether it takes 15 seconds, 30 seconds, 2 minutes to come up. Now if it took 5 minutes, I'd probably get like kind of bugged. Even 2 minutes probably be kind of crazy. But anyway, you get my meaning though. I don't think that's that big of a deal. I actually kind of want the scope to do all its internal stuff that it needs to do, and I'd rather have them do a proper job on that than trying to race through to impress somebody on how fast they come up. So, but we'll do it anyway. So we'll have that data. Alright guys, let's come over and take a quick look at this. Do the power thing first, do this, and then look at that FRA and the FFT. Alright guys, let's do it. Alright, yeah, notice the 0.0 watts, so it really is turned off. It felt like a mechanical switch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and hit this. Oops. I might have been a second late hitting the watch, but that's okay. Hey, any Suunto fans in the crowd? Any Finnish people out there? Alright, well, it's already popped up with a display of some sort, 15 seconds into it. And this thing probably come up pretty darn fast, it looks like. It's drawing about 29.8 watts as it comes up. So, alright, I think it's, well, it looks like it's there. 33 seconds, approximately. So, you know what? I didn't really see any mention, sometimes you get the little window on some scopes that says past everything, but I guess you must assume that because I'm sure it is doing some self-tests as it comes up. But anyway, yeah, half a minute's not bad at all, right? And no power to about 29.2 watts right now. I think that's pretty good too. I like the mechanical switches actually. Okay, so let's focus in on the scope now. Okay, let's go over the basic features of this scope. It's a compact scope form factor. You can see how compact it is. My hand is covering up a big part of it. There's 4 channels. Because it's compact, they don't have a separate set of controls for each channel, so they have this set of controls, and this light indicates which channel is being controlled. Let's just turn them all on. Okay, you can see how that controls that. This controls the vertical placement. You see how I'm moving it up? Now I can just push it in, and it centers it. Now also as I move it up, you notice this little window right here. I think that's super cool that scopes, or at least some scopes, do that today. So you can see when you're right on the grid, So I like that. So here, let's go ahead and put channel 4 down here just for fun. We'll put channel 3 right here. We'll just kind of separate them so we can see them all. Channel 2 right there, and channel 1 up here. You can see the indicators. They show a little ground reference showing that's the ground position for that voltage. And by the way, if you look down here, you can see the placement. For instance, this yellow one, watch that. That's channel 1, right? If I move that up, you can see, and it matches what this thing says. So I go to 13, come right down here on this grid at 10. It's kind of crazy. It shows all those places after the decimal point. That's kind of funny. Here, I'll move this one down too. You know what? This one I'm going to push the center. Okay, just demonstrate that one more time. Alright, see all 4 channels. You can see it's DC coupled. Now if I push one of the buttons, you can see the coupling right here. And that little green swirl matches this little green swirl, so that's what controls that. And by the way, this is very smooth. So I'll just put that, leave on DC. Now the bandwidth limiting, when you select some of these squares you'll see in these menus. Here, let me zoom in so you can see the menu itself. Alright, so you'll see that little square highlight. This is actually 20 megahertz bandwidth limit. I kind of wish I'd just say 20 meg so you don't have to go look it up. Now this is fine. So that means if you do that, then when you adjust the vertical placement, it moves very fine. Here, let's turn it off for a moment and look up here. Here's the 4 channels here, and you can see the corresponding colors up here. Each one's set up 5 volts per division just by default, I guess, when I set it up. But here I've got channel 1 selected. I just accidentally bumped it, so I hit channel 1, 2, 5 amps. Now this one's set for amps instead of volts. So let's go look at that. But before we do that, let's go back to the fine. When I do the fine, instead of jumping to 5, it's going to jump a little bit slower, 2.1 by tenths of a volt there, okay? Now I can also push this button and that changed it to fine. So now I'm back to coarse. If I go back to fine, and by the way, when I push it, you see this window coming up. See the box. Now when I push it again, you'll see the box has got a blue highlight showing that it's coupled, like right there. So you don't actually have to go down this menu to go to the fine measurement. That's kind of neat that it offers the fine. And then here's your vert and probe. Now this scope does something I haven't seen before. You have units or amps. See, right now I'm set for amps. I'm going to leave it there for a moment just so you can see that. And then you can go to probe scaling and you go to ratios and you can change that with this. See how the ratio is changing? Okay, or you go to decibels if you want. And then here's a deskewing option. Now I'm in amps, so it doesn't let me do this probe check. So let me go to channel 2 so you can see a voltage mode set up. Now we're in volts, so volts. So now you can see how these ratios change. Okay, go back to 10x. There's this skew. Now this is highlighted. Now this is cool because it's waiting for me to connect a probe to channel 2. So this is a really cool thing. What we do is we just hook this to channel 2, and it says you have to hook the ground probe up too. So let's do that, and then I'll say OK. And what it just did there, it just came up and said it passed. So that was pretty cool. If my probe had been deskewed, if it had not been compensated for, it would have asked me to compensate. Let's just do that quick so I can demonstrate that, just because it's a pretty cool feature. Gotta find the little screw in there. Okay, I found it. Okay, now let's do the probe check again. Okay, I've got that connected. And now look at that. It tells me to adjust the probe, compensate it. I think that's a really neat feature. Alright, and then I say okay, checks it, and then I passed the test. So I think that's a really cool feature. I haven't seen that before. Wanted to point that one out. So that's how you set up each channel. So these are the vertical. These control the vertical amplitude. Now the horizontal amplitude is this guy up here. You can see that there's some kind of signal there. If I grow that signal a little bit, it's not triggering on it, right? So I can change this horizontal position, and you can see the time right here changing where I'm set. 10 microseconds per division, 5 microseconds, so on. Okay, now if you look over here, I'm in auto mode, and I'm triggering on the rising edge, but I'm triggering on channel 1, but I've got this probe on channel 2. So let's go to trigger mode, and let's find the source. Okay, so we go to here and we look for the triggering source, and let's see, trigger type. Okay, under trigger type, it's edge. I could change that to all these different types of ways to trigger. As I come up with each one, it gives me options. And by the way, there's the serial triggering for the I2C bus that currently it's set up for. So I can scroll this way, I can use this rotary button, and I can come up here and then I can just push to select. And then let's go to channel 2, push to select. And we're still on the rising edge. We could choose following, alternating, or either. Okay, now it's still not triggering. I got to come over here to the level. Now one thing I can do is I can just push it to quickly locate it, and it just centers it. So you see the trigger position? It's in the center of the amplitude of the waveform. But I can move it around if I like, and it's really cool that it comes up with this line showing that where it's triggered, and then the line goes away. Okay, now going back to the horizontal, this is where I can control my time. And that's 500 microseconds per division. The other thing is the position. Now see this position? I can move it around. I can place it over here, and it says I'm 1 second off because it's 500 microseconds per, and I'm 2 divisions, so that's 1 second. I can push it and it'll put it back in the center. So I can push the acquire button, and it lets me go from normal, X, Y, or roll. Let's go down to X, Y. Okay, and we'll select that for a moment. Acquisition mode, it lets me go from normal to high. I cannot go to average or peak detect. And as far as my channels that it's controlling, that's the only options I have. If I go back, I just go back to this. So it's tied to channel 1, channel 2, and you can see channel 2 is the vertical, and channel 1 will be the X. So, and it tells me I'm in XY mode. Okay. Okay, and so since I don't have a signal on channel 1, it's just giving me that bar. So I'm not going to spend too much time on that. We're going to just move on. So I could spend a lot of time going through each one of these measurement types. Okay, so back to acquire. Here's time ref center. So now you can push it to left or right, and watch this. So it moves the arrow to the left side. So if you know you're going to trigger on something, you want to see everything after, you can do that. Or if you want to see everything before, you can go to your right side, or you can go to center. So that's pretty cool that you can do that. That just has those modes automatically set up. Here's normal, peak, average, and high res. And then here's your segmented memory. So you can turn it on like that. And then current segment is 1. Okay, number of segments, I only have 2 selected. So you can go up and you can select a whole bunch. Okay, I'm going to go up to 50 right here. Alright, so that I'll turn off the segments, and let's go back. Okay, I think we covered that stuff. So that's your horizontal. Push to center. You can push to do a find. So instead of jumping from 500 microsecond to 200 microsecond, same thing. You can push it. See how it comes up? And it selected that box for me for find and adjust. So that's pretty neat. So there's your horizontal adjustments, okay? Cool things here. And you also have the zoom feature, of course. Now you can see how neat it is, how obvious. This waveform here is what's in between that window there. I can spread it out this way, or now it says that's the limit there. And then I can zoom in. So I think this works really nicely. I like it. Obviously we have the run stop. Now I also have a push to 0 on this guy too. All the position buttons are push to 0. Single mode. I like these big color buttons. The only thing is single mode, I'm not sure why it's orange. I'd almost think it's just be green like the run stop. So, but anyway, it's just a color thing. I'm not sure why they chose it that way. I'm sure everybody would have a different opinion on what color that should be. It says turn off the zoom function. Now, then your triggering, we've kind of looked at that already. Here's your trigger center. Now what's really cool is you can push to do 50% trigger like I've already shown you. You can force the trigger. So let's say if you're capturing a single mode. Now see, since my trigger is right there, as soon as I push this, it captures the signal and it stops. So if I bring the level right above that trigger, above the signal level, then it won't trigger. See, I'm right above. So now if I go to single, okay, I'm waiting for an event to happen. It hasn't happened. I want to see if my signal's still there or what it looks like, so I just force a trigger. I go, okay, yeah, okay, that's what it looks like. So then I go back to single and I wait some more. So that's, force trigger is pretty cool. So those are your three main parts of the scope, is your vertical, horizontal, and your trigger. And the single capture mode is part of that triggering. That's really neat. Now, what the scope also has that's really cool, it kind of works with these things, is you have this default setup. I can just hit this, because I don't know how the scope was left last time I played with it. I was doing a bunch of crazy stuff, had it in some strange mode. So now look, I'm back to channel 1. It's just kind of defaulted to some kind of mode. Now you can set that default mode, which I'll show you under utilities, to set up what you want as the default. What I like about that default is it's actually recessed. It's not, these buttons stick out. That button actually is recessed just slightly, so I actually have to purposely hit it. So if I'm moving this or looking at things, like see how I can accidentally hit things, I'm not going to accidentally hit that and change my, lose all my settings that I've gone through. You also have this auto scale, which I'll go ahead and do since I don't have anything going on. Now the auto scale, it looks for whatever you've got on your signals here, and it tries to scale the picture to show you what it thinks you want to see. Now if you hit that by accident somehow, you can do undo auto scale, or you did it on purpose, but now you just want to go back to your other setup. You just do undo. Okay, before I do that, here's a fast debug mode. There's all channels, acquisition mode, so you can go to these different setups and set up these, how this works. Okay, so you can set so that when you hit the auto scale, you can get it to auto scale as much the way you want to as possible by these options, which is really cool. Okay, we'll do the undo and just go back to that. I go, no, I kind of like that. I'm going to go back and do that, because what it does is it changes my trigger source. It does everything because I'm set up there. All right, so let's just go back. Now when you go back, you always go back to this menu. Now this menu right now, by the way, shows me all my probes are set for 10x, which this does too. That's just repeating the same information I already have. Math I'm not using, so it's grayed out. Reference I'm not using, so it's grayed out. And acquisition currently capturing 250 megasamples per second. Alright, well, I can't really adjust that, so I guess that's good to know, but they could just put that up here and then they don't need to show me all this. I just wish I could hit back one more time or menu off and then just get rid of that menu. Alright, so my trigger position 1.22, I think we've looked over all these things here. I've only got one channel on, so it's just telling me the channel there. But I see them all set up here, so I know how they're set up still. It's showing me my trigger position and where I've got the ground reference, which is in the center of the scale somewhere. So let's say I want to put it on a grid. I always like things put on a grid. I don't know, digital engineers only care about height and lows. They're not really looking for things, but analog engineers, when we're looking at characteristics of a waveform, it's nice to have a reference spot so that when we see things on each division, the time and so on, we can see what's going on. So I think it's good to do that. Even if you have your automatic measurement set up measuring the things for you, I don't know. I just like to do that, especially if you're going to save images. I think you should do that. So, if you're going to save something on that USB, they have this defined button for USB, save to USB, boom. So they have these defined buttons for things you may use a lot, which I think is really cool. This defined button, these two auto scale or default setup buttons that are recessed. The rest of them are all protruding, and these are all kind of a silicon type, filled to them, kind of rubberized. Or, the buttons are actually rubberized. There's an intensity button, which we'll show you that in a moment. FFT, math. There's just defined buttons like this analyze button, which is going to be really cool. We'll save that for last, or for near last at least. And then you have a wave gen, because we have that generator option. Okay, so one of the other neat things that this scope did is it gave a unique set of controls for the FFT or the math. So you got your own, scaling button. We haven't got this up, so I'm getting an error. And position button, which, by the way, even though this does have that discrete help button, which is also kind of cool, hit this button, it comes up with this saying soft keys, blah, 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 but you can go to getting started, and you can go to different menu things this way. There's a training signal, which is really cool. You can hook up a coax here, and then it has all these training signals that you can look at and practice capturing with your scope. You got some digital ones down here. You got all these training signals, which would be fun to go through a bunch of these to kind of show you this, but that'd make for a long video. So anyway, you go back this way and then back again, and we're back to where we started. Alright, so let's go over some of these buttons in here. The cursor has its own control too, so let's turn on the cursors. Okay, cursors are on channel 2. You could select any of those things. Manual mode, you can go track, binary hex. Now cursors X, you can say which cursors you want to select, and the units, if you want seconds, hertz, phase, ratio. Okay, so you got all these kind of options. Now you can come over here and you can move the cursor this way. There's X1. If I push the button in, then I can select any of these other things I want, like X2, and then I can move X2 to, say, that edge, and then I can go back to X1. Let's say I want to go back to here. Now I can go to X1, X2 linked, and I can move those around. Or I can go down to Y. I go down to Y1 and move that guy maybe down here, and then so I like how you can go through all these menus really quick. So you can move these things all around really nicely. It's very easy to go between these things and turn them off, turn them on. So really nice cursor setup. I like that, how you can just toggle through most of the things you're going to want to do just by playing with these two buttons. And alright, so let's go to measurement. Now measurement, I'm at source 2, so I can choose all these different things I want to assign measurements to, and then I can go to type. And right now it says frequency, because down here, let's scroll all the way to the top. So there's a snapshot. Push that on, I get a snapshot of my measurement, all the different things I can measure. Or these are under the category of voltage, and it kind of shows you a picture of what you're going to read, which is really nice. And then now this under category of time, all these measurements. So they got them categorized nicely. And then this is under count. So you can see how easy and nice that they've got these things categorized. So there's lots of different measurements you can take. It's really neat. And by the way, when you add these measurements, here I'll just add some measurements. I'll just add this. Okay, I'll add just several measurements so you can see what's going to happen here. Now I'll get 4 measurements, right? Now this peak-to-peak measurement, if I add another measurement, say if I go overshoot right here, add that one. See, it added it, but it pushed off my peak-to-peak. Now if I delete this one, it doesn't bring it back. It just lost it. So, not a big fan of that. I wish it just came up with an error message saying, hey, you already got 4 measurements. So, I would go, oh, shoot, okay. You know, because maybe I set these up in an order and I don't want to have to delete them all and reorder how I wanted them. So, that's something I kind of wish they would just come up and say, are you sure you want to do this? Because you're going to lose your first measurement. So, clear measurements, so you can clear them all this way, clear all, or you can clear which one you want individually, you know, like this, or just clear all. So, measurements really nice, really, you know, good instructions on the measurements. Now, if you're not sure, you can just hold any key down and it'll tell you how to use that key. So, I like that kind of help actually, where it's on the fly, like, oh, what does this button do? Like, for instance, what the heck is quick action? Hold it down and it tells you basically quick action. Here, I'll demonstrate it. If I push that button, it comes up with all these things. Well, we're going to get the utilities in a moment, but that's where you set up this button what you want it to do. Okay, so that's kind of cool that it has, you know, that kind of measurement or that kind of button that, you know, you can assign that. Maybe it's something you do often, you just, you know, like measure all, like I have it set up right there. That seems to be kind of a helpful thing. Okay, now display. Obviously, we're going to be able to set up, okay, here's persistence. We're going to be able to set up how bright we have things. Now here's capture waveforms. Persistence, we can set for off, persistence, infinity, or variable, or capture waveforms, clear persistence, clear display. So go back, here's grid, you can go to full grid. Right now I don't have the options to do those other things, but my intensity is only 20%, so I can go a lot brighter if I want. Just drop it back down there. See, if I just push it, it goes to default 20. Okay, labels, you can set up labels. Pretty cool. Annotations, same thing. You can annotate channel 1. You can change it to annotate any one of those things. And you can change the background. So, pretty cool stuff here. Here's clear display again. Alright, so pretty neat. Now, along with this display, you just have this really cool button you can just push, and sometimes you see a bar, but they kind of gave this odometer kind of looking thing, but that's kind of cool. Then you just push it, turn it off. So I think it's nice that they added that as a discrete button on front, and it's a nice small button. It does protrude, but you can see you purposely have to push and hold it to turn it on. Alright, so I want to demonstrate one of the cool features on this scope, and it's the FFT. So the scopes today all have FFT. It's really neat. This one is kind of interesting. It lets you control by span and center. So center frequency and span. So pretty simple settings. It also has a settings button, and I can go to auto setup, which I guess it already is. I can go to decibels or volts RMS. I can go to these different kinds of filters, which I guess I'll leave on Blackman. And then it's set for source right now, so I can choose any one of these 4 sources, any 4 channels, but I can't choose, like, let's say a reference size saved to reference, or I can't use my math. Maybe I wanted to look at the math signal that I captured. I can't do that. It captures the force signal, so just want to clarify that. And now the other thing is I want to see the definition of square wave of this guy. So what I need to do is, here, let's go back to the other window and let's change the span to, say, this is a 1 kilohertz signal down here, so let's just change it to 10K. Whoa, that changes pretty quick. Okay, center, it'd be cool if the center, if there's a way to automatically center it. I wonder if I can. Nope. Okay, so here, let me go to 5K. Okay, getting close. Hold on a sec. Almost there. Okay, 5K. Alright, so now that doesn't look like a lot of definition, and it could be because I don't have enough cycles. So let's grab some more cycles in here. Yep, there we go. Get better resolution. So you need more more cycles to do the math. And there might be a point of diminishing returns. Let's just go on and see how it looks. Yeah, now it's starting to kind of look really pointy, and I know it's not going to look like that. It should be a little bit closer to what it was looking like before, like little, like that. Okay, where they just get sharp. Okay, I think that, well, so the thing is, this scope, I think it has 1 K points for the FFT, I believe it is. So right now we're at 19 hertz resolution. And so yeah, so you got to play around a little bit with the horizontal and the span and center to get, you know, the signal you want to see. Now if you want to get rid of channel 2, all you have to do is push that twice. 1 time to select it, 2nd time to get rid of it. Go back to our FFT menu, and now you see that little position right there. I can come down here and position this right on that grid. This guy is showing me 60 dB is where I want to be. Okay, oh, here we go. 20 dB per decade on the scale, and minus 60 dB offset. So that says minus 60 dB because it's 20 dB per 20, 40, 60. I like to see a scale here actually, and again, get rid of this, but the scale there would be really nice. And as a matter of fact, the frequency scale would be nice. But okay, so from here you can use measurements. Now look at that source, FFT automatically goes to that. That's really neat. And type, I can go max. That's a good one to do. So let's add that one. Let's go another one. Let's go minimum for fun. Add that guy. Let's do one of these things. Okay. And then we'll, okay, settings. Okay, so then you can do threshold settings. You can set it up so it's looking for that. So if we set threshold, upper threshold, okay, so I was looking for a threshold number, but it's just give me a percentage, I thought. Okay, and then lower threshold, so yeah, you can just, I don't know, move these things around a little bit. I have to play with that to, you know, understand exactly how that's working, but down here we got some measurements going on. This is 60 dB, and then we have that 0 dB, so this noise floor is about 20 dB probably. So that's your FFT window, pretty easy to use. Obviously I don't know how to set up these thresholds and what this guy's trying to find. But you can use your cursors as well. You go source FFT, manual mode. Oh look, you can go to track. That's pretty cool. Let's do that. Let's track it. And you got a X1, X2. tracking mode. So I'll just turn those off and see what. So I think some of those thresholds I got set up, this guy's tracking these peaks here, it looks like. And this one down here is tracking the lowest signal. That's your FFT. That's pretty cool, pretty easy to use. And that's just the FFT on the scope probe square wave. So 1K, 3K, 5. So we should see odd harmonics because, you know, that square wave is made up of a bunch of odd harmonics. But we're also seeing some even harmonics in here. And they're all the same amplitude. The odd harmonics are dropping. Now if I wanted to add more of these guys, I could, if we want to see a bigger span, let's try that. Whoops. 20K. There's 50K, but my center's still 5K, so we're seeing this, but you can see all those guys. So I can move this guy, my center, more towards 25K, and then my span's 50K, so you know, you can get the point here. So that's pretty neat, right? Okay, one thing I forgot to show you was the math button. Let's turn the math on. You have your operations right here, low pass filter even, FFT stuff here and here, and then you have your sources, channel 1 through 4, channel 1 through 4 for your two sources. So yeah, your basic math stuff, right? Again, just don't have a lot of time to demonstrate this in full, so let's jump to another demonstration I want to do. So the other button I want to demonstrate was the Analyze button. I think it's a really cool button. So let's go ahead and do that. Just push this in. Now I have some signals set up. I'm going to talk about that, but let's look at the features. You have all these different features that you can analyze, okay? You got video, measurement thresholds, trigger levels, analog bus, serial bus, references, mask. But here, I just want to show you this digital guy. Now, I think what they say is you get this free when you register your product. It's pretty cool. It kind of reproduces on both spots. This one offers the graph as well, but I don't know. It'd be kind of nice. I don't know if there's a way to get rid of this one so you just see this guy, but I'm not sure if that's the best place to put that. And I don't know if you can move it, so I'm sorry I haven't found a way to do that yet. But you have auto ranging, transparent. You can turn off the transparent, and then it's going to just show you the meter really well. But if you turn on transparent, the signal is going to go through it. And DC mode, DC RMS, AC RMS, and there's a frequency mode there. So that's your DVM. All right, the other thing you can do is you can, let's see, let's go back away from DMV and let's go to this FRA. Now this guy is the one I think is really cool. Now you can leave your digital meter on if you want, okay? Maybe I'll just leave it on. And now in your FRA mode, you can go to setup and it shows you what to do. So let's say if you're gonna do the gain of a filter, you can put your signal, your wave gen, and one of these signals into an input, and you can use your other channel, channel 2 or whatever, for your V out. Now, as far as sources go, you can go to input V1 or through 4, and output 1 through 4. I'll just leave them on 1 and 2. So now the gain is output divided by input, right? So in this case, what I'm going to do, we'll go back to this setup here real quick. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a frequency and a current probe on the input of a speaker, okay? And what I want to do is I want to, if I could do this with any kind of filter, a capacitor, or an inductor, or even a resistor for that matter, and look at the response of it. So I'm going to put the waveform and the current probe to see how much current the waveform is putting in, and then I'm going to use the voltage probe on channel 2 to look at that voltage. So I'll have, so basically, okay, so what I'm going to have is my generator going into the speaker. I'll be monitoring that voltage that I'm injecting, and I'll be monitoring the current that I'm injecting. So when I do that, I can go voltage divided by current, and it'll give me how many ohms I see at that particular frequency. And then my wave generator will sweep from some frequencies, say 100 hertz to 20 kilohertz. Okay? And then I'll see my resistance across that sweep. Okay, so then I can set up my chart. You can set the gain to be, you can also go auto scale, which I'll probably do. You can set your gain and your your scales here though. Okay, so let's just go. See, that's your gain of phase, frequency. If I was going to set this guy up, I can just set it like that. I can go gain and phase, turn off. If I don't want to plot both, I can turn them off. And then there's my auto scale. So now I go back to this, and if I go transparent, then I can see the signal behind it, which is kind of hard to see things. So if you don't go transparent, then it kind of whitens it out, so you see your graph there. Alright, so then you see a nice picture of your graph. Now all I have to do is run analysis. Okay, now here, let me just show you the setup. I've got the generator plugged into generator output. I've got the current probe on channel 1 and the voltage probe on channel 2. So it'll be output over input. So channel 2 divided by channel 1, volts divided by current will give me ohms. And hope the Keysight scope doesn't mind, but I hooked a Handtech current probe to that. And this red and black lead right here are my speaker leads. So I'm reading the current through my speaker. And then I've got the generator is a red and black clip. And here's my scope tied to the same place generator is. So just put those guys right down here. And I'll hit run analysis. And we should actually, oh, you know what? The other thing, when we go to setup, the amount of waveform. Let's go and change. Let's change that to 2 volts peak to peak. Guess we can go higher than that even. But we'll go 2 volts peak to peak, and it's low impedance 50 ohm, not high Z. And instead of 60 points, you know what? Let's increase that to double that. Let's go 120 points. You can go as high as, let's see how high you can go. I think it's 600 points. Looks like you can go. Oh yeah, maybe it's 1,000 points then. Yeah, 1,000 points. Okay, so I'm going to go down to say 120 or 200, somewhere around there. Okay, 100 hertz, 20 kHz, and 2 volts peak to peak. So we're ready to go. Alright guys, we're ready to run it. Let's go. Okay, there's the signal. The green is the voltage, and the yellow guy right here is the current. Unfortunately, you could probably hear that, right? It's probably, hopefully it's not too loud. Right here it's telling us what frequency we're currently at, the dB and the phase. Wow, that's getting painful. Whew, alright, so now the blue one is the gain. So you can see it's around 21 dBs, drops to 15, goes back up to about 26 maybe, and drops back down around 16, and it kind of stays flat through this area. And the phase went from about -60 up here to about 0, then back down to 30, then back to 0, and then crossed up to +60. So that's frequency response of a speaker. So that's kind of neat that you can do that, right? Alright, so then lastly, I think, is the utility button. Let's go to that button. You got your I/O, you can set up LAN, all that stuff. Here, let's just jump down through this stuff. File Explorer, so you can, go to your drive and look at files, options. Here's your preferences. This is where you can set up expand to ground, screensaver, set up this kind of stuff, like store demo, preview. So it goes through a big demo process. Here's your wave gen, and here's your cowl. There's a remote log thing. Okay, and then here, let me also show you the under preferences. You can go down here to auto scale. That's how you set up your auto scale button, so you can set up these things the way you like them. Okay, all right, and then right under the main menu down here, quick action, that's this button right here. You can hit that and you can set that up to do these kind of things, and you can assign it to any one of these sources. Alright guys, so I think that's a quick run through of the menu, of all the menus. I hope I caught everything real quickly. Yeah, I really need a series of videos probably to fully go through the scope. So I guess the main takeaway from this is it has dedicated buttons. The layout makes a lot of sense. It's nicely laid out. The buttons, they're kind of rubberized. They feel nice. They're nice to grip and hold. And they work like this entry button. This, sometimes these buttons, these variable buttons that, that they offer on some scopes are kind of sensitive. This one works really nice and smooth. So I do like these rubberized buttons. And I like the dedicated buttons that you have, and I like how these two are inset. See, they're kind of flush to the front where these stick out a little bit. These guys just are they're not even actually flush, they're slightly inset, so you'd have to hit them on purpose. I like the generator output on the front. Wow guys, what do you think? Pretty cool scope, a lot of cool features. Price looks pretty good. I think Keysight hit a good price point. Hey, they can always go cheaper, right? Anyway, this is a really cool scope, and yeah, I like it. Probably need more time to do more stuff, but I hope you like that, guys. Hey, by the way, I think I forgot to show you the gen button. The wave gen gives you an option of your basic, sine wave, square wave. Has sine, square, ramp, pulse, DC, and noise. Okay, so it's got noise output. So yeah, sorry, I forgot to show you the wave gen. Give me a thumbs up if you like that. Thanks guys.